I want to thank everyone who is joining us live, and we are super excited for our Move United Training Tip Tuesday as part of the Adapt at Home series. We're super excited to have Dani here with us today as our special guest. And just a few housekeeping rules. Everyone here is on mute right now just to minimize distractions, but you're more than welcome to shoot any messages, questions for Dani, or questions about anything that we talk about in the chat box below. This session has been recorded, and so we will upload it to our Move United YouTube page, as well as our Move United Facebook page afterwards too. But without further ado, I would love to introduce Dani. Please feel free to tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get started. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone so much for joining us live, and for everyone who's watching this later. My name is Dani Aravich. I am a Paralympic athlete. I'm 24 years old. I currently live in Park City, Utah, but I'm about to move up to Bozeman, Montana for the winter for ski season. So I compete in the sports of track and field and Nordic ski and biathlon. I've been competing in Paralympic sports now for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And the rest of my life, I actually competed in able-bodied sports the entire time. Did not even know adaptive sports really existed before. And so I'm still pretty new to the Paralympic movement and the adaptive sports movement, but I'm super excited to be here today with all of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dani. And can you tell us a little bit about your background in sports? How did you get involved? What did you do? Anything like that?
Yes. So I started playing sports from the age of 3 years old. My parents put me in every sport imaginable. And I was lucky to grow up in Boise, Idaho. So I grew up alpine skiing and spending my weekends on the mountain, which was awesome. Definitely stood out being like the only person with one pole on the ski mountain. But I competed primarily then through the rest of my high school career in basketball, softball, and soccer. And it was just near the end of my high school career, I started running cross country and track and field. And that's where I really fell in love and found kind of my niche in sports. So I ended up going on to compete at the Division I level for Butler University, which is in Indianapolis, Indiana. And it was there where I kind of teetered with the idea if I wanted to still compete in sports. And I ended up leaving the team partway through my college career because I thought I was done with sports for the time. And then it was after I graduated from college and started working full-time in a corporate job that I realized I really missed having sports and having it be a part of my daily life. And someone brought to my attention, which I never really knew much about the Paralympic movement, that I should look into training for the Paralympics, which at first I thought was a crazy idea because I hadn't competed in a few years and we're talking about the highest level of sport. And it was very scary to take the plunge into training again, particularly because I thought I had this set path of working in my job and I was going to work my way up. And then when I decided to start training, I had a really hard time finding the balance between training and work, which for people who, if you're a recreational athlete, I'm sure you can relate to this too, like finding the time when you're working a full-time job to train and to practice is really difficult. And so I ended up leaving my full-time job and going part-time in order to train for track and field. And this past spring, I did qualify for the Tokyo Paralympic trials. So my goal was to qualify for the team for Tokyo. And then last year, from my track and field background, one of the Paralympic developmental coaches heard about me and invited me to try out Nordic ski and biathlon. And so I've been competing in that for the past 11 months. And now I'm moving to Bozeman, Montana this winter to train with the Paralympic national team for Nordic ski and biathlon with the hopes of qualifying for the 2022 Winter Paralympic Beijing Games.
Yes, it is so exciting. And it's honestly unbelievable. A multi-sport athlete training for the Paralympics. It's not super common, and we're super lucky to kind of have you in our network. And we wish you the best of luck with all of that. And so we'll stay on Nordic skiing because you just spoke about it. How did you get involved in Nordic skiing, and what's that experience been like so far?
Yes, so I actually had my first camp for Nordic ski and biathlon at the Ski Spectacular, presented by the Hartford, Move United's big ski event that happens every single year. So I was invited to a training camp in Breckenridge, Colorado as part of the Ski Spectacular. And I spent 6 days basically getting on Nordic skis for the first time, picking up a rifle for the first time. And that was how I got started. And luckily, I do live in a place that has snow. So I was able to continue to train and practice after Ski Spectacular. And I competed at the Paralympic Nordic Nationals just a few weeks after. So about 3 weeks after I stepped on Nordic skis for the first time, I competed at nationals. And even though our category was sparse, I ended up winning both of the events that I competed in. And I, unfortunately, because of the season being cut short last spring, didn't get to compete much more, but I'm excited for this year to get to compete. So this year I'll probably be training about 6 days a week for ski. And it's going to be quite a whirlwind, but I'm really excited because I'm still new to the sport. So I'm really excited to learn even more so about it.
Awesome. Yes, and I'm so glad that you brought up Ski Spectacular. So the Hartford Ski Spectacular, it used to be hosted by Disabled Sports USA, which is formerly us. Now we're hosting it as Move United. And unfortunately, because COVID is going on, we're not able to have it in person. Usually it's like an 800-person event, and Dani was able to join us there. But this year we're hosting it online. And so if you go to www.skispec.org, then you're still able to register. And the cool thing about this year is registration is free. And so we have a ton of fitness sessions going on, training and education for winter snow sports. And we hope to get back there next year in 2021. But Dani, about Ski Spectacular, what were some of your favorite parts about the event last year when you came?
Ski Spectacular was crazy. Like you said, it's so many people and so many people of different abilities. And since I was still new to adaptive sports and the Paralympic movement at the time when I attended, it was just wild seeing all these people of different abilities doing all these different sports. And Ski Spectacular encompasses camps for elite athletes, camps for new athletes trying out a sport for the first time. And what was really cool, I even had some friends attend to learn how to be adaptive ski and snowboard instructors for their home mountains. So it is a really great community of people of different abilities and able-bodied people who are there to help and learn so they can take back different practices to help their adaptive athletes in their hometowns, which was super, super cool to see. And you just meet so many different people from different areas of the country. And it was an awesome event. There's tons of different sessions you can attend. And I'm really hoping next year we will be able to be back in person. And to be in Breckenridge, Colorado in the winter is awesome. If you've never gotten to go to Colorado and to go to Breckenridge, it's a really great experience there. And this year, I'm definitely going to be attending some of the sessions online. So make sure you, like Lily said, you sign up online and you can join me for those.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. And for those of you who don't know what Nordic and Biathlon is, are you able to explain a little bit more about your sport?
It's so funny because when I say biathlon, people often associate it with triathlon, so they think it's biking and running. So Nordic skiing is, I guess the other word people typically use for it is cross-country skiing. So there's two different styles for standing athletes. For sit skiers, there is basically just one technique. And instead of skiing down a mountain, we get to ski either on flatland or uphill. So it's kind of like, I compare it to alpine skiing's the fun skiing and Nordic skiing is the challenging skiing, in my opinion. So it's a high endurance sport. I mean, it's often the type of system your body is using for it is comparable to like a long bike ride, a long run, a long swim, etc. So it is a high endurance sport. And biathlon encompasses the cross country skiing and shooting a rifle. So it was originally founded in Europe, and it's a super unique sport because you have such a high intense cardio based activity. And then with shooting your rifle, you have to basically relax and calm your heart rate down in order to shoot accurately. So it combines two very different types of movements and different types of systems your body is using into a very unique sport. But I think it makes it super fun and it makes it very challenging as well. And so, yeah, basically you cross country ski for a certain amount and then you shoot 5 shots. If you miss a shot, you either have a penalty lap or you get time added on afterwards. And then you ski more and you shoot. So it's super unique. And we shoot air rifles. Able-bodied shoots 22 rifles, but we shoot air rifles with para, and it's a target that's 10 meters away. And for someone like myself, who's an arm amputee, we have a rest we put our rifle on. And yeah, so that kind of encompasses the 2 sports, but it is super unique. Next time you have a chance to, particularly people often see it during the Olympics or the Paralympics, definitely check out the sport because it's very fun to watch and super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for all that information. I just learned more about it as well, so that was great. And then do you have a favorite portion of the biathlon? Do you prefer the cross-country skiing or the shooting more?
Oh gosh. I would say so far, again, I'm still very new to the sport. I would say I prefer skiing a little bit more. I do really enjoy shooting and it is a great challenge to me, but I feel like where I thrive more, especially coming from a running background, is the skiing. So that's been one of the hardest things definitely for me is I feel like I shoot really well when I'm just practicing without skiing before, but when you throw in the component of having the high heart rate, it makes it a lot more challenging. And so that's something I'm definitely focusing on this winter is learning to slow my heart rate down in order to shoot more accurately. But I would definitely say skiing is more so my jam right now.
Nice.
Something
Well,
I
I'm
picked
sure
up more naturally.
yes. And that's a perfect segue. I was going to go back to track and field as well. What parallels have you seen in regard to training, and are there things that you've picked up in Nordic that's helped you in track and field and vice versa?
Yes, definitely. So I come from a distance running background. So when I ran in college and in high school, I was running cross country. In track and field, I was running the 3,000 meter, the 5,000 meter. And so I see a lot of parallels between that and Nordic. And for a summer training for Nordic ski and biathlon, we do a lot of long runs, a lot of long bike rides, etc. So I see a lot of parallels there. I have been training now for the 400 for Paralympic track. So it's been a little bit of a change, more so sprints rather than the distance based. And I definitely though see, particularly when we do some of the shorter types of workouts with Nordic, it is similar in terms of like different interval trainings, things like that, that do cross over to my running quite well. I would say with Nordic, what's helped me with my running, it engages certain parts of my body that I feel like running often doesn't, that needed it. Like with classic skiing, particularly, my hip flexors are always engaged. And so I think that's definitely helped out with my running quite a bit. And I'm glad the sports do parallel in some way, because it would be very challenging to train for 2 different sports that were totally different. And there's still a lot of differences, but it is nice that like I can go on a run and it's going to benefit both my track and field career and my Nordic career.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there any special equipment that you use for any of the sports?
Yes. So for track, I typically don't even use blocks. So if you've seen a track and field race start blocks, just because I am missing my hand, it makes it a little bit harder for the start. So I do a traditional, more of like a standing start. So I don't use particularly any special equipment there. For cross-country skiing and biathlon, well, we have our different sets of skis for our 2 different styles. And then I use 1 pole instead of 2 since I'm missing my hand. And then we have our rifle. And for our rifle, some adaptive equipment, we use a rest for the rifle. So since I don't have another hand to hold up the rifle, use a rest there. And then we do have special targets compared to able-bodied. So they're 10 meters and they're about the size of a dime or so when able bodies are about the size of a grapefruit. So different size targets there. So a little bit of adaptive equipment with that. And then with my strength training, I use a lot of different adaptive equipment there. There is a lot of resources online. When I first stepped into a weight room, I didn't know how to do a lot because I was afraid of like either A, looking silly, or B, not figuring out how to adapt what was available to accommodate my body and my situation with missing my hand. But after doing some research, I have found there is different adaptive equipment available. And so I would definitely recommend, if you do have a limb difference or a different ability, going on even just Instagram, looking at other athletes who may have a similar ability to you. You can get a lot of inspiration from there. And so particularly in the weight room, I would say is where we have to use the most adaptive equipment and figure out new ways to do things to still accomplish the workout we're trying to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, one's a really good segue into these adapted home fitness kits from Move United. So Move United's provided what now is about 1,000 fitness kits across the United States, which is super exciting. Yes.
Yeah.
And we know that you had received one, Dani. Are you able to tell us what is the fitness kit and anything that you use specifically? Feel free to elaborate.
Yes, most definitely. So the fitness kit, comes with a few different pieces of equipment. The thing I like most about the fitness kit and what I've definitely used the most is going to be the resistance bands. So it comes with 2 resistance bands. I have them right here, the black and the blue. And I love, as an arm amputee, resistance bands are your best friend. They, particularly these ones, because they are long, you can tie them into knots to make different sizes or do whatever you need to do. I also am a fitness instructor at a fitness studio locally. And so I try to incorporate resistance bands wherever I can for able-bodied also. But as an arm amputee, particularly for me, I have just below my elbow, but it's really hard to isolate my bicep on this side. And so with resistance bands, like right here, I just tie it around this arm. If I pull down with my right hand, I can isolate my bicep. It's just a small movement, but doing things like this, I have started incorporating doing every single day outside of my weightlifting routine because it can make such a difference. Like if you are missing a limb, you understand the body imbalance you have. And so by trying your best to balance out your body, it's going to make you that much more stable, that much more, I'd say, explosive in your sports. So resistance bands have been one of my favorite things as well. And as recovery for an athlete, stretching with resistance bands is incredible. So just doing a stretch like with this resistance band where you put it around your foot, you're lying on the ground and you can pull back and get your hamstring there. So that's definitely been my favorite part about the kit. And there's just so many different ways you can utilize resistance bands.
Yes, absolutely. The resistance bands are a huge hit, so
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that you also enjoyed them as well. Some other items in there are a cordless jump rope, a towel that some people have used as sliders, and then there's a big kickball or exercise ball as well. Yes, love that you're using them. And we actually still have the availability to give out fitness kits at this time too, which is really exciting. If you register for Ski Spec, then in that registration question, they'll ask you, have you received a fitness kit? Would you like to receive them? And we have 650 fitness kits to give out during this time for Ski Spectacular. They're a little bit different, but it's the same equipment and they're blue. So if you're seeing this, please feel free to register for Ski Spectacular and you can claim your fitness kit too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, all right. And then tuning over to just adapted sports in general. I know that you said that you were still new in them, and I was wondering, what would you say to someone who's interested in trying adapted sports?
Do it, and do it as young as you can. That was one thing. Like, I'm very glad I grew up doing able-bodied sports because it taught me a lot and it helped me, I guess, have thicker skin in some aspects. But I just think the opportunities that are available in para sports and adaptive sports are tremendous. And I wish I'd known about them at an earlier age, because I could have started training for my goals, I guess, at an earlier age. So it can be intimidating, especially if you grew up maybe in an area where you don't know any other adaptive athletes and you feel like you're the only one, or you've just never done them. And like I said, maybe you did able-bodied sports all your life, but it is so fun. You will meet so many incredible people. You will meet people with different abilities of yours that you might not have even known were out there. And I just would recommend it to anyone to give it a go. And if you're an able-bodied coach or athlete or parent, like, get involved in adaptive sports. There's so many organizations like Move United that need volunteers for different events, need coaches, etc. And the impact you could make on an adaptive athlete's life by being involved is incredible. That was one of my favorite things about Ski Spec, was seeing all of the able-bodied participants wanting to help out in adaptive sports and had a passion for making a difference in adaptive sports. And there's just so much opportunity. So I definitely recommend going on to Move United's website, looking for different clubs in your area, trying to find other athletes. Like right now, I train with one other Paralympic athlete here in Park City, Utah. But it's just like the availability of things. I didn't even know the scope of it. I thought it was so small, the community, but I've come to realize it's so large and there's so many people involved. And so definitely do your research, but get involved in whatever way you can. And if you have high goals, you can accomplish them. And like the Paralympics would be such a great way to like find new purpose in training and get to experience new sports too. Like that's one of the coolest things I've seen through the Paralympic movement, is some of these people who may have had an accident or some trauma happen where they lost a limb, etc. They might be 30 years old and pick up a new sport, and then they go to the Paralympic Games, the highest level. So there's really no age you can cap adaptive sports at. Like you can really try it out at any age. But for any parents out there, if you have a child with a different ability, I definitely recommend getting them involved in para sports early. But like I said, any age. I started when I was 22 years old. So as any way you can get involved, just try it out. Whether you're a recreational athlete or whether you're an elite athlete, there's definitely opportunity for you out there.
Yes, such good advice. Thank you. And as Dani said too, we're now over 175 plus adapted sport organizations within our membership network. So if you haven't checked out, please feel free to go to moveunitedsport.org. Underneath locations, you can see every adapted sport organization we have listed out by state. And our goal is eventually to have an adapted sport organization within individual people within 6 hours. And so we're on our way to that goal, and we're super excited to have more organizations join our network. Dani, if someone wants to find you on social media, how would they do that?
So on Instagram, my handle is the One Arm Dan, spelled out One Arm Dan. And then I have an athlete page on Facebook. It is Dani Aravich Adaptive Athlete. And on there, I post a lot about my training, different things happening within the adaptive sports community. So if you look on there, I'll try to post as much as I can to get people on the know on different things happening in the para and adaptive sports world.
Yes, fantastic. Well, we want to thank you so much for your time and joining us for this Training Tip Tuesday. We wish you the absolute best luck with your track and field and Nordic/biathlon endeavors. You're basically training for multiple sports. And we're excited to hear about your upcoming updates after your training. So this session has been recorded. We're going to upload this to our Move United Facebook as well as our Move United YouTube page to check out in the past. If you haven't signed up for Ski Spec, please feel free to do so. It's kispec.org, and you can register. Registration is free, and we hope to see you. It is the week of Tuesday, December 1st to Thursday, December 3rd, and all our information is online. But we really appreciate your time, Dani. It's so nice to see you, and we wish you the best of luck.